Hey everyone, in this video I want to talk about the modern tech stack to build apps, mostly AI tools that I use, and basically the typical workflow that I go through with these AI tools to build an app these days. Obviously AI has completely changed the game. You are probably already using one or two AI tools, but I think the tech stack is going to be not just one or two, it's going to be everything. And so let's actually just take a look at some of the tools that you can use these days, because I think they can improve your productivity by a lot. These AI tools aren't replacing us right now. They are mostly productivity tools at the moment, and they can be a big benefit if you know what to use and how to use them. And so let's actually go through a typical workflow of building an app and see how it all fits together. So let's say I have an app idea. I'm allergic to peanuts. And so when I go out to a restaurant and I get some food on my plate, I want to know if there are peanuts in there. So I want to be able to take a picture of my food on my plate, and the app should guess if there are peanuts in there. Right? That's an app idea. So where would I start if I want to build an app like that? Where would I start? Well, in the beginning, I would probably just chat a little bit with a chat AI app. So obviously ChatGPT is very popular for that. There's also Claude. There are some other chat apps as well. However, I typically use ChatGPT myself. I'm thinking it allows the user to take food on a plate, and the app should tell the user if it may contain peanut. Right now, for who is the app, it's also important to mention it's for people who are allergic to peanut. Right, so if you want to build apps, I think this is actually a good strategy for generating good ideas. What are the problems that you personally run into? Because if you have a problem, it's pretty likely that there are other people out there in the world that have a similar problem. So I see a lot of people, they build apps, but it's unclear for who the app is and whether it's actually a problem or not. So if you just stick to problems that you have yourself, it's a higher likelihood that you're actually building something that other people want as well. But this is how I would start. I would just sort of chat with an AI to give me some ideas and to see if there may be some obstacles. So here actually it's thinking now, but it's already there's already a good suggestion here. There could be some disclaimers necessary, right? So it's telling me, or at least I could read it in its thinking that, yeah, maybe I need to add a disclaimer, like obviously the app may make mistakes, right? So obviously I want to have that covered. All right, so then here it will give me some ideas, right? So here, for example, it's talking about that it could be a big problem if it says no, there are no peanuts, and turns out yes, there are actually peanuts in there. I have to be very clear in my app that it may make mistake, and it's not 100% perfect. And then here it shows me some of the product flow. So I need to be able to, the app needs to be able to capture a picture, and we need to be able to analyze that with some vision model, or perhaps maybe also take a look at the labels that may be present, because some people may not use it for restaurant food but for a supermarket product, let's say. So and then at some point we may have to make a decision. So if it's beyond some threshold, we would say be careful, may contain peanut. Okay, so let's take a look. So here it suggests that I sort of collect my own data set perhaps. So I could, for example, find restaurant food that actually contain, and then I can maybe use that not to train my own model from scratch, but to use an existing model and just supply it with some examples of food that may contain peanuts. So basically at this point I'm just getting some quick ideas on how I could do. Now some people will talk about a PRD, or product requirements document. So basically it's going to formalize the requirements of this app. Now I'm actually a little bit skeptical of this, because in the beginning it's just an idea. You don't know everything yet, the exact features it should have or how it should be structured. All right, now make sure you watch the whole video, but we're going to look at CodeRabbit a little bit later as well. And they are today's sponsor. CodeRabbit has an amazing tool for reviewing your code. A lot of your code will be written by AI, but when you want to push it into production, why not let AI take a look at it as well? It allows you to quickly pick up on some potential issues before you actually ship it into production. They are, as of recording, also offering free AI code reviews directly in your own IDE, so make sure you check them out. You can find a link in the description. We'll talk a little bit more about CodeRabbit a little bit later as well. So I will just show you here. I personally do not do this, but some people may find it helpful. This may be particularly helpful if you already have a really good idea of what it should be. You have already fleshed out the idea a little bit, and you already know pretty accurately what it should be. All right, so here I get a bunch of, all right, so here then I get the PRD suggested for this. So basically it's going to have some information about it, like the purpose, the problem statement, what are the goals, some persona. So maybe a good thing to do just to get a sense of who the app should be for, some use case scenarios. But I don't need a specific technical requirements at this point because I don't know exactly what it should be. And so, for example, it's telling me some dependencies here. If I would give this PRD to one of these AI coding agents, it's going to give me maybe a bunch of things in there that we actually don't even need. If I would give this to an AI agent, it may install TensorFlow for my app, for example, which I don't need right now. But this may still give a good sense of some of the relevant aspects here. Okay. All right. So then the next step could be to maybe prototype a little bit or to actually build it even completely in one of these basically idea to app type of apps. Some of the popular ones as of recording are Lovable, Bolt.new, as well as V0 by Vercel. These are all really good actually, and it allows you to quickly put your idea in code, get a preview, try some things out, and even deploy. So you can actually build the app completely inside one of these tools. So let's actually try out V0 here. I could say something like an app that allows the user to take a photo of their food if it may contain peanut. Right now, again, if you have a PRD with technical specifications, you could put it in here. I don't want to bloat my product with a bunch of things that we decide later we don't actually need. So I like to just loosely iterate at this point. Let's actually see what it comes up with. So it's gonna plan the structure. All right, so here it comes up with an idea to add an AI model to the app, and I can just create the project like this. All right, so I actually connected an AI model here, and that should allow me to add sort of an AI vision capability to the app. Let's see what it comes up with. So it's just going to generate a bunch of code, and at some point it can actually show me a visual preview here. You can see it wants to use the camera here on my device, which I will allow. And actually now, of course, I'm recording myself here. Okay, actually I don't have any food next to me, but I do have a glass of water. There shouldn't be any peanuts in here, so let's actually analyze this and see if it detects any food, any peanut. All right, so here it says no peanuts detected, and yeah, that's probably correct, right? Now, obviously, it's a weird image, but it gives me an idea of the flow of the app here. Of course, we have an important disclaimer here as well. Very good. So within a couple minutes, I already have a good sense of what the app should be. I can click on analyze food here. All right, so this looks nice. This disclaimer I think is really important. All right, so unfortunately there is a bug here. Failed to analyze the image. Please try again. So I get some bug here. I can iterate here. I can say fix with V0. That's nice. Okay, so it's gonna try again. All right, so here at this point, I'm just trying some things out. I'm just clicking around, getting some ideas. It doesn't have to be perfect here at this point. I'm just iterating over the app quickly. It's basically a really advanced prototyping tool at this point in my view. But these tools are getting pretty good. So at some point, it's possible to only use this tool and actually deploy it and just build the entire thing in here. And in fact, you could argue that they are already at that point. Right? So the idea that I've gotten from this is that I can have a button for retaking a photo and then a separate button for analyzing the photo. And also the fact that I have a button here for taking the photo in the first place is interesting. Now, unfortunately, right now it's not working perfectly. And there are some more advanced things I want to do, perhaps. We do run into some other issues here, so it's not working perfectly yet, but it is pretty good. So at this point, I would probably move over into a real IDE, right? Integrated development environment. So at this point, I may decide to actually jump into a real IDE, as they're called, integrated development environment. Basically, a dedicated code editor, but it has other things in there as well, like a terminal. And these days, of course, we have AI Copilot inside this tool as well. So it's basically a complete development environment. Now I'm using Visual Studio Code here with GitHub Copilot. It's really good, but there are some other tools out there as well that are really good for this as well. And you've probably heard of them. There's also Cursor. Cursor is actually really good. And if I open up Cursor, you can see that it looks familiar here. And they also have AI pane here, and I can have different modes. I can pick models here. So I can pick models here, and yeah, it's actually really, really good. And another one that is also really good is Windsurf. So Windsurf, if I open that one up. So Windsurf also is a code editor, right? So you would open a folder just like you used to from Visual Studio Code, but they also have the AI pane with AI features. And so these are all really good. Let's actually use Visual Studio Code here with GitHub Copilot in this video. They have recently also introduced an agent mode, which is also really good. So let's see what it can do for us. So I just have an empty project here. You can see there's no files. And so what I can do is I can chat here and set up my project. Now I don't have to start completely from scratch. If you're using V0 or those other Lovable, bolted new, they allow you to, of course, GitHub, and so you can also get your code into the IDE that way, right? So you don't have to start from scratch again. But here, let's actually say set up to take a photo of their food, and the app should warn them if it may contain peanut. Okay, so I can pick the mode, I can pick the model right here. It may be a good idea to specify the tech stack that it should use, because here, yeah, an app, it can be built with React, with Vue, it can be all sorts of technology. Now, I like to use Next.js. It's a full stack framework, so you have both a client side as well as a server side in one app, essentially. It simplifies a lot of things. All right, so let's see what it comes up with. All right, so here it wants to run a terminal command, and it's asking me for permission, essentially. I will say, sure, that sounds good. Yeah, so here it needs to have some input from me. Yes, I will say, I will just leave all the defaults here. All right, so it's been going at it for a couple minutes. So at some point we should have something here. Let's actually run the development server as they suggest here. So let's actually go there and see what we get right now. All right, so here we have a app here scaffolded by the GitHub Copilot agent. I will allow my camera here, and I see myself here on the page again. That's a good, yeah, it has a nice disclaimer here again. Now here you can see it has some different buttons, right? But let's actually take a photo again with my glass of water here, take a photo, and it gives me, okay, so here you can see we get a result here. Obviously the text isn't the right color, but it looks similar to what we got before. However, the other one with V0, I think it had a better disclaimer view, and they had some other buttons as well, right? So that's one of the benefits now of having done the prototyping step first. Now I can iterate here, right? And how do I do that? Well, this was just a quick setup, essentially scaffolding, and the scaffolding here is fine. So I can just keep everything. I will just keep everything here. It has done a lot of things here. So let me just close everything here. And since it has done something well, it's a piece of work that I want to save. I'm going to make a commit here. I'm going to say app scaffolding, right? I want to commit there. I want to add all these changes and commit. And you can see with a new Next.js project, it already has created an initial commit. So that's why I now have two here. All right, so now I have my commits. And now how I would continue working on my app is by essentially chatting here with the agent. So for example, I want to create a new chat here. I like to clear out the context often, especially if I'm going to talk about something else. So this time I would talk maybe a bit about the disclaimer, right? So I would say perhaps please make the disclaimer a little bit more obvious, perhaps, right? And I can attach the files that it should change and specify the context a little bit better. All right, so then after a couple seconds, it has made some changes, and we can see now, I think this looks better. So that is how I would continue, right? I would just say what's wrong and try to improve it through the chat. Okay, I will keep this and I will make another commit. I can say, actually, we can do it with AI as well. Cool. We'll stage the changes and commit. Okay. All right. Now all my code right now is only on my local computer. So if I lose my computer, I would lose all my work. So I do want to have sort of a backup, but maybe I also want to collaborate with other people. So other people can also view the code and download the code on their own computer and work on that. So at some point I do want to push my code to a platform like GitHub. So I can do publish branch here. I'm just on the main branch. That's the default one. So I will actually go with a private repo, and the name is fine with me. So if I use that one, it will actually create a GitHub repo and also push the code to there. So now I can open that up on GitHub, and you can see all my code right now here is on GitHub. So now it's on GitHub. I want to show you the next tool that I've been using so far, which is CodeRabbit AI. They help a lot with the next stage of the workflow, which is reviewing pull requests. As you're iterating over your project, you're going to push more and more changes to the repo. And if you're working in a team, other people will start pushing changes. And so before you actually merge those changes, as they're called, you're going to have a pull request, right? Now, we want to make sure that when we merge it into our main branch, basically our production branch, there is an extra check, and CodeRabbit can help us with that extra check. It will help you detect some of the mistakes you may have made and some improvements you could make. And I found it actually really good, and it becomes better over time as you use it because it can learn from your preferences. So let me actually show you how CodeRabbit works and fits inside this workflow here. I have already created an account. You can see I've been using it for some other repositories here, but I want to enable this for this repo here as well. So I just add a repo here. So here I can specify, I can also allow it for all repos, but I like to be a little bit selective here. So I'm gonna enable this for this particular repo as well. Okay, so now it should be enabled. All right, so now when I go back, you can see it's enabled for this repo as well. So what can we do now? Well, typically now, as we're going to make more and more improvements, typically you're not going to do all of that on the main branch, right? Especially not if you work in a team. You typically create a separate branch for, let's say, a feature or a bug. So let's say we do have an issue here. Let's say the text does not have the right color here, right? We have light text on a light background, typically not what we want, right? You may open an issue for that. So we could say something like an issue, bug, right? We could say something like there should be dark on a light background, right? Just, and somebody else could do this. We will assign ourselves to here. We want to fix that issue. But what you could do, for example, is say, I'm going to create a new branch here for bug light text. So now I'm on a new branch. You can see that here at the bottom. And now I want to fix that bug. I can do it manually, but of course we're going to use AI as much as possible. It's much easier, and we can even detect where that problem exists while here on this page. And we could say something like, please make the text on light background dark. There is light text on a light background. Okay, so we'll hand off the task essentially to AI again. All right, so it made some changes. And now if I take a photo, you can see it actually does have the text here correct, but it still has this other issue. And actually, of course, it says that my face contains peanuts. Maybe my face looks like a peanut. I'm not sure why, but this is not correct. Obviously, we have to improve the results here, but the text still isn't right. So you would just continue here from analyzing the photo, right? So just typing what went wrong, give it another chance. All right, so now finally, actually, it looks better. So I want to keep these changes, and I'm going to make another commit here. Right, so here I'm just going to generate the commit message here with AI. I'm going to save here. I'm going to commit. And now I want to publish this branch on GitHub. This is a different branch than the main. Let's actually do that. All right, so now it's going to ask me for a pull request. Let's actually do that here on GitHub. If I now look at the code here, you can see that we have another branch. Well, what do we want? That was pushed here. Now, what do we want to do with this? Well, we want to merge it into main because our app in production may be using the main branch, right? And we want to, of course, use these changes on the main branch. So now we have to sort of ask permission to merge that into the main branch. All right, so here I'm going to open a pull request, and I could add a description here, but this is actually one of the things that CodeRabbit will help me out with. So CodeRabbit is enabled for this repo, and it's very useful for these pull requests. So let's actually go ahead and see what we get. All right, so now you can see I have created my pull request, and CodeRabbit has seen that, and now it's gonna help us out here. We just have to wait a couple seconds. It's going to look at the changes that we made, and as you'll see, it's actually really good. It's very similar to somebody else reviewing your code. But let's actually wait a few minutes and let CodeRabbit do its thing. All right, and then after a couple minutes, we get the result here. So one of the things here is that it will summarize the changes that I made right here in the pull request initial message here. You can see it's been edited by CodeRabbit, so I don't have to write that. And below here, we have a couple of other things now. So we have a walkthrough. Basically, it's going to expand a little bit on what it wrote here on the summary and just basically tell what changes I made, right? So this is useful for the other person that has to review your changes, right? So I made these changes, I want to merge them into main, but somebody else needs to check if that should be allowed because maybe I made some mistakes or there are other problems. So it's mostly for that other person that's going to review my code here. It's going to be very beneficial for that person to quickly get a high-level overview of the changes I made, including on which files, right? So here CodeRabbit also tells which files were changed, right? Of course, this was a very simple change, so it's going to be a short message here. And we get a very nice poem here as well, very nice. And then we have another message here. So it will actually do a code review, meaning it's gonna review very much like a person would review your code. So it will go over the changes that in the code that I actually made. So it did a review and it had some additional comments. So it has something to say about the contrast, these guidelines. This is helpful for the reviewer because it quickly tells them the type of concepts to pay attention to, right? So then it puts them in the right mindset. Oh yeah, I have to take a look at this, or if it has the right contrast, and then here's some of the colors. Okay, so of course this was a simple change, and it has some nitpick comments as well. So you can see here actionable comments 0. So CodeRabbit basically thinks that the changes I made were quite alright, but if you would really push it to come up with some suggestions, then here under nitpicks, it can help you out. It can suggest some of those as well. Okay, so somebody else would review the code, and at some point they would merge the pull request. Let's merge it into main. All right, so now it is merged. So now if my main branch was the production branch, we would redeploy the app. Everybody using the app would now have proper colors. All right, so I could delete the branch and start working on something else. Let's say we want to add some features. Maybe we want to allow a little bit more personalization, perhaps. Maybe we also want to allow the user to add some information about themselves, how allergic they are, other allergies they may have, and the app should then also detect those other allergies in the food. All right, so then it's going to go ahead. All right, so now it made a bunch of changes again. So now let me actually push this again. I will commit here and publish this to GitHub. Okay, so there's been a new push here. I can open a pull request again, right? And I want somebody to review my code. But let's actually see what CodeRabbit can come up with if I open up the pull request. Right, so it will just take a few minutes. All right, so actually it will give you a summary pretty quickly. So actually this time it's a bigger pull request. There are more changes, and so it actually splits it up here by new features and improvements. So we actually had some new features, some general improvements, okay. And then here it has a nice walkthrough for the person reviewing this. It expands a little bit on the summary, and then here it gets the changes by file. So this is actually really nice. It gives you a quick overview here of each file's changes here. And what I also really like is that it can generate these sequence diagrams. This is very time consuming to do myself, but it's really helpful because it can give me a good high-level overview of how the app is structured, and so you can see how everything fits together. So actually amazing feature, and for a person reviewing the code, it helps them understand how things are interconnected. All right, we get a nice poem here. If we scroll down a little bit more, so now it has done a code review for us again, and this time actually it did come up with some actionable comments, as they call it. So here it has some comments here for certain hunks of code, but let's actually view that here under files changed. So here you can see there are 4 files that were changed. Right, so here we can see the div of the file, so the changes that I made, and here it found a potential issue. So here it sees that user allergy, so this is something that I added in the commit. We are parsing that, but we're not even using that. So it comes up with a suggestion here, and I can actually immediately commit that here as well. Right, so let's actually see what else it comes up with. Right, so here it found something else that could be better. Yeah, so here, this is very tricky in React, but in React you can set state in various ways. The thing that I committed here, you can see it's using a variable local allergy, and that may become stale. So it's safer to use the previous updater format when updating React state, if you need to rely on the previous state. And so this is actually a great suggestion. All right, so here it found something else that could be better. So there's a modal, and the modal is not properly implementing accessibility semantics or keyboard support. Right, so we also want to have focus trap. So if you're tabbing around in a modal, that it's trapped within the modal, so that if you press tab, it's not going to select something below the modal, let's say. A very typical issue with modals, so really nice catch here by CodeRabbit as well. All right, so here there's another really tricky issue that has to do with local storage and how that can cause an hydration. So basically, with hydration issues with Next.js, for example, your app will run both on the server side where there is no local storage, as well as in the browser where there is local storage. And so if you load the app, there may be a mismatch in the actual rendered HTML. You may get a hydration error. And actually it found that there is a risk here, and it has a suggestion here for how to improve that. This is again really nice, because this is the type of issue that even if you're an experienced developer, you may not think about as you're pushing this. So this is another nice catch. Now we can do other things as well. Let's say we are the reviewer and we see that the person trying to merge is using the gray Tailwind class here. But we can say something like, I can add a comment like, please only use the zinc color shade in Tailwind, and add CodeRabbit as well. CodeRabbit will let me know that it actually saw that comment. And after a couple seconds here, you can see that it comes up with a suggestion on things to fix. And very importantly, it has added a so-called learning. So it has picked up that this is some kind of convention that I want to have in my code base. So if I go to CodeRabbit's dashboard here under learning, it has added this as sort of a rule, or like a that we can add to our sort of knowledge base. So then the next time it will do a code review or interact with our code, it may use that. It may use that to check if I am properly using the zinc color, for example. So that's really slick as well. So those were the actionable comments. It also has some nitpick comments. So these may be some quick tips essentially that are not essential, but may still be helpful. One other thing we can also do, by the way, is generate doc strings. I can just check mark this checkbox here, and now you can see it will generate doc strings. We just have to wait a little bit. And while we're waiting for that, let's actually check out the dashboard a little bit more. So here are the repos I connected. So for this app, I can also set settings. And there are actually many settings I can set here. So also the review language they should use, the tone, and then here for the review, I can set a bunch of changes, whether it should generate sequence diagrams, for example. It's really nice if you want to keep the poem. So a bunch of things we can do here. The profile, assertive or chill. You can connect with Jira and Linear. All right, so now it has finished adding doc strings. You can see it actually opens a new pull request for that. So if I go here, it has added doc strings, and we can check the changes that it made. You can see for these functions, it had basically has added a description. So basically with doc strings, you're basically adding a description to the functions here. So for example, this home component, it's going to explain it's a React component, add some relevant details here, like it integrates with camera capture, right? So just one click away with CodeRabbit. And then I hope that this video is helpful for you with your AI journey. I think it's really amazing to see all these AI tools come together and really boost the productivity of us as developers. I think it's a really exciting time. So thanks for watching, and I want to thank CodeRabbit for sponsoring the video. Check them out. In any case, I hope to see you in the next one.